What if the greatest conflict in human thought was never meant to be a conflict at all? For centuries we've been told we must choose science or God, logic or faith, data or divinity. One deals in facts, the other in fantasies. One uncovers truth, the other invents it. That's the story we've inherited. But what if this division, this epic battle between the rational and the spiritual, is a misunderstanding? What if both sides are right, and the real truth lies in the space between? This is not just a thought experiment, it's a doorway, because the deeper we look into the fabric of reality, the more this ancient war begins to unravel. In the pursuit of truth, we've split the world in two. But now, the cracks are showing, and something vast is seeping through. To understand how we got here, we must journey back to a time when science and God walked hand in hand. Isaac Newton, one of the fathers of physics, wasn't just a scientist. He was a mystic. He saw the universe as a divine code written by the Creator. Galileo believed his discoveries were unveiling the laws of God's design. Descartes, the father of modern rationalism, tried to prove the soul's existence through geometry. In the beginning, science wasn't rebellion, it was revelation. It didn't aim to destroy God, but to understand his work. So what changed as the Enlightenment swept across Europe? Something subtle and seismic occurred. Empirical observation became the new scripture. The microscope replaced the altar. Mystery was no longer sacred, it was a problem to be solved. The church resisted, clung to dogma, and persecuted visionaries. And in that collision, a fracture formed, not just in society but in the psyche of humanity. God became superstition, science became salvation, and we forgot that both once searched for the same thing: truth. Despite all our equations, all our theories, one mystery still haunts the halls of science: consciousness. Why do we feel? Why does matter, when arranged just right, begin to dream? Neuroscientists map brainwaves, psychologists label behavior. Physicists calculate the probabilities of subatomic particles, but no one can explain why it feels like something to be you. This is what philosopher David Chalmers called the hard problem. And it's hard for a reason, because it doesn't fit. You can dissect a brain, but you can't touch a thought. You can scan a neuron, but you can't weigh a memory. So some scientists are starting to whisper what mystics have shouted for millennia. Consciousness might not be a product of the brain. It might be the fabric of reality itself. Quantum physicists talk about observer effects, how particles behave differently when watched. Simulation theorists suggest this world is coded, observed, rendered, and suddenly, the sterile language of science begins to sound like scripture, like spirit, like God. Thousands of years ago, the sages of India spoke of Brahman, the infinite, unchanging reality behind all appearances. Taoist masters described the Tao, the formless source of all things. The Gnostics spoke of divine light hidden beneath the material veil. They weren't conducting experiments. They were exploring inward, dissolving identity, ego, thought, until only pure awareness remained. Now fast forward to the 20th century, quantum physicists find that matter isn't solid. It's vibrating energy. Particles exist as probabilities. Time might be an illusion. Reality seems to emerge only when observed. Physicist Niels Bohr once said, "Those who are not shocked when they first come across quantum theory cannot possibly have understood it." But for mystics, this shock is familiar. It's the awe of touching the infinite. What if science and mysticism are two mirrors reflecting the same mystery? One describes it with formulas, the other with metaphors, but both are staring into the void, trying to name the unnameable. So here is the revelation, quiet, radical, and unifying. Science and God are not opposites, they are tools, two instruments tuned to different frequencies of the same song. Science asks, how does it work? Spirituality asks, why does it matter? One dissects, the other integrates. Like the left and right hemispheres of the human brain, we are meant to live in harmony, not in halves. In trying to explain the world, science strips away illusion. In trying to experience the world, spirituality returns us to meaning. When we honor both, we don't weaken the search for truth, we complete it. We become not just observers, but participants in something far greater than logic alone can grasp. Here's the twist. What if reality itself is paradoxical, designed in such a way that it must be approached from opposing directions? In physics, light behaves like a particle and a wave. In math, Gödel's theorem tells us that no system can explain itself fully from within. In psychology, Jung teaches that true wholeness comes not from certainty, but from embracing contradiction. And, in every wisdom tradition, truth is hidden behind paradox. The self must be lost to be found. The way forward is to let go. The divine is within, yet beyond. Could it be that truth requires contradiction? That to grasp the totality of existence, we must hold both science and God, not in conflict but in creative tension? Maybe that's the real test of intelligence. Not picking a side, but living in the center of the paradox. Now, this isn't just a philosophical theory. It's a call to action, and it begins with you. You are not just flesh and chemicals. You are not just spirit and energy. You are the meeting point, the bridge between cosmos and consciousness, between measurable and mystical. This journey doesn't ask you to abandon science or betray faith. It asks you to become large enough to hold both, to be curious, to question, to feel, to see the universe not just through a microscope or a mantra, but through a lens wide enough for wonder. The age of division is ending. The age of integration begins with your awareness. Humanity stands on the edge of a new cosmology, one where black holes and ancient prayers belong in the same sentence, where neurons and nirvana are not strangers, where awe is a form of knowledge and knowledge a form of awe. As Einstein once said, science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind. Maybe it's time we stop choosing between sight and movement and start walking the full path. Because in the end, God is not threatened by discovery, and science is not diminished by mystery. What if the universe is not a machine but a mind? What if all this time the question wasn't who's right, but rather what truth requires both to be seen? For centuries we've drawn a hard line between two worlds, science with its instruments and formulas, God with mystery and miracles. One deals in facts, the other in faith. One claims objectivity, the other whispers of the soul, and we've been told they cannot mix. You are either enlightened or delusional, either rational or religious, either grounded in reality or lost in fantasy. But what if this was a false choice? What if these two paths were never enemies, but estranged siblings? This ancient feud has split minds, cultures, and even the human spirit in two. It's shaped how we teach, how we think, even how we exist, but perhaps it's built on a misunderstanding, a misreading of what both science and spirituality truly are. Because the truth, they're asking the same question. What is this? What is life? What is consciousness? What is this strange, beautiful mystery we call reality? One searches the outer world, the other the inner, and both are incomplete on their own. This script isn't about taking sides, it's about pulling back the veil and seeing that both paths may lead to the same mountain. Long before telescopes and test tubes, wisdom already existed, not in conflict, but in harmony. To the ancients, science was sacred, and the sacred was scientific. In Egypt, temple walls were carved with geometry and starlight. In India, Vedic texts mapped the cosmos as both matter and mind. In Greece, Pythagoras studied numbers not just as math, but as music of the divine. They didn't split truth into categories. They saw the world as one living, intelligent organism. Alchemy wasn't just about turning metal to gold. It was about refining the soul, Astronomy wasn't just about stars, it was a reflection of divine order. Even the word cosmos meant beautiful order, a universe not of chaos. But design, these people didn't worship blindly. They observed, they meditated, they decoded reality using both the heart and the mind. But something changed. With the rise of the Enlightenment, science turned outward. Faith was pushed aside. Mystery was labeled myth, and the soul became irrelevant. We gained knowledge, but lost wisdom. We built machines, but forgot meaning. The ancient synthesis was broken, but not destroyed. It waits, quietly, to be remembered. Look closely. The universe is speaking, not in words, but in